Hello, everyone. My name is Ashley Nuckels-Cuevas, and I am the Director of Forensics at San Diego State University. And I am very excited to welcome you to our evening of debate. We will be discussing the very important topic of Measure B on the San Diego November 2020 ballot. Now, let me take this opportunity to go ahead and say, if you haven't already, get out and vote. It's one of the most important things. This year marks 100 years of suffrage, and we deserve to take advantage of this amazing right that we have and make sure that our voices are heard. And whether or not you want to engage in the political debate about our presidency or Congress, there's some really important issues that happen in our own backyard, specifically like Measure B. Measure B is called the Commission on Police Practices Amendment. And I have the lovely ability, amazing ability to have a guest speaker with us tonight, Danielle Broadway. But before I bring her on, I wanted to give you a little preview of what we'll be doing this evening. First, we're going to have Danielle come on and give us a little bit of context about the measure and the issues surrounding its creation and its proposal. Then we'll go ahead and have a debate between two of our debaters from the SDSU forensics team, Kyle Landman and Lava Al-Jakmakji. And they will be debating both the pros and the cons of Measure B. And then at the end, we will be giving our endorsement of whether to vote for or against Measure B. Please know that our team is a nonprofit organization and a registered student org. So if you would like to be able to and are able to support our program, feel free to go to our team website, and you can click on a donation link there if you have the ability. If not, simply being here and watching is more than enough. And we are so excited to have you here. All right, now without any further ado, I would like to introduce you all to Danielle Broadway, who is an activist and a freelance writer and former debater. Danielle competed for Palomar Community College and Cal State Long Beach. And I actually had the privilege of meeting her when she was a debater at Palomar Community College. So we go way back. But Danielle is one of the most talented writers that I know, and it is my privilege and my honor to introduce you all to Danielle Broadway.
Thank you so much, Ashley. I truly appreciate all the hard work that you put into putting this amazing event together. So just to get us started, I want to say that I have been doing debate for 6 years, and it is an amazing activity that I encourage anyone to participate in, especially when it comes to discussions of policies in our communities. Measure B is so important, especially with so much that has gone on in this year so far. We've had new waves of Black Lives Matter protests against unjust police brutality cases, which has really raised the conversation of policing in our communities. And a way to sort of help the police system and make improvements to the way that there is misconduct is through Measure B. Measure B advocates that there are independent review boards in San Diego. So when there are cases of police misconduct, there is a group of community members that are not biased by their affiliation with the police department, that come from diverse walks of life there to investigate and to look into various issues that concerned not just them, but the communities around them. And when we have debates like this, the important thing to remember is that while we may be discussing something in a Zoom or in a video sort of scenario, these extend beyond conversations. This will actually be something that has material change in our communities. One of the things that I really want people to think about as we talk about policies or measures that concern policing is the recent decision of Breonna Taylor. As we saw how the legal system can easily unwind and how certain misconducts just don't get evaluated just and ethically. And we've had the police officers only charged for the bullets that missed her, but not for the fact that there was a case of police brutality. So as we watch this debate, I want everyone to be mindful of how the ideologies and the thoughts that are behind each and every debater really help to shape change and really help to shape the way that we approach policing. And also, just as a final note on that, we want to also think about how debate as an activity is something that will always come in handy, even beyond the college sphere. Upon graduation, I know that I've learned as a debater is the research about public policy simply never ends. We never stop learning. And the research that we do in debate, whether it's on domestic policy or international policy, never stops being applicable and important. So one thing that I want to reiterate about what Ashley said is go out and vote, because that is where we start. That is how these conversations carry on into material change. And my hope is that with participation in this both scholarly and passionate activity, is that we can truly work together to make palpable social change.
Thank you so much, Danielle. That is wonderfully stated, and I couldn't have said it better myself. I wanted to ask you a really quick question, if I may. So a lot of times when we as competitors and coaches have to deal with a difficult topic that does deal with like police brutality and heavily charged topics, we have an affinity to back away from it. But I recently read How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi, and he encourages us to have difficult conversations and to engage in questions of policy specifically. Do you think that your experience in debate has equipped you to be able to engage in this kind of conversation, specifically in your writings?
Yes, definitely. I think that debate it fosters such a well-roundedness of knowledge on so many different facts and perspectives. When I tackle an article or something that I want to inform my audiences of, I know that I have the research skills. If I have a question, I know where to get them. I know where to get quality answers and ones that are the most authentic possible, because I realize that so much of the information that we extend to others, it has an effect on them. It has an influence on them. And we need to make sure that that information is not only valid and credible, but also that it speaks to the lived realities, especially of marginalized voices. I must admit, when I was a debater, I was a very critical debater. I was always sort of advocating for social change and, dismantling things like anti-Blackness, racism, sexism, because those things don't get discussed a lot, and they don't get discussed through the right lenses a lot. And it's so important that those things transfer and translate into what we present to our audiences and what we present to our communities.
Absolutely. And thank you again for encouraging everyone to vote, because like Kendi tells us is that yes, there is racism in our society. And by the way, SDSU forensics, following the death of George Floyd, did come out with a Black Lives Matter statement, because we absolutely believe that 100%. And when first addressing this difficult topic of police brutality and how that's tied to the lived experiences of Black individuals in this country, and not just Black, but also other people of color, we start to think very personally how we can be addressing and engaging in these conversations. But we are reminded by Kendi that policy does create social situations that create racism and create racist situations and perpetuate those things. So voting really is one of the best ways to be able to tackle and advocate against those types of problems and to see some real changes occur. So thank you so much, Danielle, for taking the time this evening to join us and to give such an amazing perspective. And it was wonderful seeing you.
Thank you so much, Ashley. And I hope everyone enjoys the debate.
All right, everyone. Now the moment that you've been waiting for, which is the debates, of course. That's why we're all here. So tonight's format is going to be meaning the affirmative, which is our debater Kyle Landman, will be in favor of passing Measure B. He will give a constructive speech not to exceed 3 minutes, followed by a cross-examination, where Lava Aljakbakchi will go ahead and ask him some questions to clarify his position. She will then follow with her first negative constructive, also to not exceed 3 minutes. Following that, Kyle will have a turn to ask her some clarifying questions before both of them offer some final rebuttals. So this shouldn't take too long, but I am very excited that there's going to be a wonderful amount of content and great detail that is going to be offered. So let's begin with the first affirmative constructive from Kyle Landman.
Great. Thank you so much, Ashley, and thank you, Danielle, for the great conversation. And thank you to everyone for joining us, even if virtually, for this important discussion. This November, we have a choice. We have to choose between holding our police accountable for their actions and dealing with San Diegans, or remaining with a commission that has virtually no power. The system we have under the current Community Review Board does not have the ability to enforce justice and mandate police accountability. Measure B is designed to be a crucial first step in providing justice for our communities of color and holding the police accountable for their actions in our communities. For these reasons, you should evaluate all of the arguments presented here today as to who best attains justice for our community. Specifically, I believe that the criteria or the standard that you should use to measure our ability to attain that ideal is accountability. I propose that Measure B does increase accountability and transparency, thus making the way for more justice in San Diego. Specifically, Measure B will dissolve the current Community Review Board and establish a new committee called the Committee on Police Practices. This committee, appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council, will be given new powers to hold the San Diego Police Department accountable for the actions of its officers. Measure B gives the committee subpoena power, with both the ability to compel witness testimony and the deliverance of documents to the committee. The committee is also charged with investigating all officer-related shootings and deaths occurring in custody or involving a San Diego Police Department officer. They are required to create a report with their findings and recommendations, which are public knowledge, and then passed along to the chief of police. While the discipline power remains ultimately with the chief as per the city charter, the public is given knowledge of all proceedings of the committee within the state and federal disclosure guidelines. Now, Measure B is not the only step we must take to ensure justice and accountability for our communities of color, but it is the beginning of many that we must take to address the continued injustices brought upon by police misconduct in San Diego. This committee provides all records of investigation and are required by statute to keep them available for the public. By passing Measure B, we give an independent regulatory committee the ability to provide the public with information to hold the police accountable. By giving the committee concrete powers, we are able to take part in the policing process by making sure that police officers are not able to use lethal force without justification. We have a choice this November to take a crucial step to holding the police accountable. Now, this measure is not perfect, but it is an important step to allowing the people of San Diego to know that they can have the information that they need to hold the police accountable. It also makes sure that the police cannot hide from their abuses of power. The commission would be required to receive, register, and review and evaluate all complaints against the city police officers. We deserve the democratic process in all institutions, and even more so in one that can directly affect the lives of all San Diegans, if not given a check to their power. This is why we need Measure B, to ensure transparency and accountability, to bring justice to our communities, and to begin to rethink how we police. Thank you all for coming to this debate tonight. It is an important part of the democratic process to constantly be evaluating all of our policy decisions, because nothing is ever perfect. Justice is a core principle of our society, and the best way to preserve justice is to consistently reevaluate and maintain the context in which it needs to take place. I hope that we, as a community, can come together to ensure justice for all in San Diego and across the country. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, Kyle. That was a wonderfully researched and presented position.
Thank you so much.
Of course. And now we will call Lava to give us a speech of cross-examination to ask some clarifying questions.
Thank you so much, Kyle, for your speech. I would like to start by asking, how is CPP formed? What's the process, and who proposed this measure?
Okay, great. Thank you for the questions. I'm going to start with your first one. So the Committee on Police Practices is formed by action of the City Council. The measure is merely a framework in which the City Council and the mayor together can create the committee. They will assign the duties, the responsibilities, the ability to remove the committee members from office and their pay. And this all comes together as a motion of our elected officials, those on the city council and the mayor. And the people who proposed this measure were a group of like-minded individuals spearheaded by the Women Occupy San Diego movement. They were the ones who wrote the measure and the ones who were the most vocal behind it, and were able to push this onto the ballot.
All right, and just for clarification, are these members of the CPP voted by the people, or are they appointed?
They're appointed by the mayor and confirmed by the city council, who are both elected positions.
So the citizens have no way of nominating nor voting for the members.
They do not have a way to vote, but their input is more than welcome at the city council or to the mayor's office.
All right, cool. Thank you so much.
All right, wonderful questions, Lava. And now it's time for your first negative constructive. Take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thank you to Kyle for proposing some wonderful arguments. However, I must disagree with you on a few important points. But let us begin with where the two of us do agree. We both agree that justice is the ultimate goal of this measure, and that accountability is the best way, in this instance, to measure our ability to attain that value. However, this proposition does not go far enough to guarantee the accountability necessary to create long-lasting changes necessary for real justice. To begin, within Measure B, there is no actual guaranteed accountability of how the committees will be functioning successfully. My first contention in saying so is that the committee's major power only amounts to making recommendations back to the police departments, where the origin of the problem is that this measure covers. When these recommendations, which are scrutinized by the higher-ups and the chief of police, will only be sent to the police departments, which hold no requirement in further investigation. In addition, all reported cases that have not been submitted as in need of further investigation will easily be overlooked and neglected without any further support to face the cases. This further infers that not all cases will be accessible for the Commission to look into in the first place, since they're not enlisted to do so. This defeats the idea of an increased necessity of monitoring police officers' actions to decrease overall police brutality in terms of assault, changes, shootings, deaths, and everything else caused. In addition, my second contention is that the death cases that are required to be reviewed and investigated by the police department are only within the limits of either while in police custody or if it's related to police shooting. In fact, police shootings where the suspect is the injured or not injured at all are not required to be investigated. This ignores all the police brutality actions of sexual or physical misconduct, since they're not mandatory to be investigated in any way unless possible death is involved. So, in the end, the committee, even if they wanted to, cannot address all the misconduct that the police officers act upon, which fails to pinpoint and decrease the injustice that many police officers condone but easily pass through. My last point is that the importance of grassroots. Since the City Council is appointing the members of this committee, there is a high possibility that it will be politically biased, and that is a huge problem. It is important that citizens nominate and elect the members that they're familiar with and can trust. There is no guarantee that the appointed members will have the needed knowledge about San Diego's legal problems or police brutality, which is something significant for the purpose of the committee. I believe this also becomes a drawback as to how effective these investigations of police brutality will be. I believe it is necessary that our citizens could have a voice in who is nominated. These are a few areas where the measure can be even stronger in its mission to defeat police brutality and bring upon stronger changes to the system for a more just community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Lava. It's not a 2020 unless somebody's muted. And now next up is a cross-examination from Kyle.
Great, thank you so much. So I have 2 questions for you. I'm going to begin with my first one. My first question is that, is any degree of transparency and accountability better than what we have right now?
I believe it's definitely important because having more transparency means that we know more of the truth and what is happening in our daily lives. If the committee is able to bring up the transparency of what is happening with the police officers every day, it will be better for the citizens to understand and know and have knowledge about what is happening and what needs to be changed.
Great, thank you. And my second question is that, if the Committee on Police Practices was required to investigate all cases, do you think that they would be as effective as possible?
I believe they will be effective because then we know the truth about all the cases and what happened and what exactly is going on and how the next measures should be taken care of in terms of how the police officers, if we need to get them arrested or need to, know about the victims, because if we have cases that are basically overlooked, we're going to have many victims and no assaulters taken care of. So it's really important to know every single case and to investigate through.
Great, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Wonderful questions, Kyle.
Thank you.
So now it's time for you to offer your affirmative rebuttal.
Great. Thank you again, Lava, and you do bring up some very valid points. And I do understand where you're coming from, and I agree that we need more police accountability. But we live in a democracy where, unfortunately, change takes time. Measure B is a crucial first step in ensuring that San Diegans from all walks of life could obtain information about their police department that was previously unavailable. Without Measure B, we retain an outdated and toothless review committee that is lacking in any real power. The most important aspect of this measure is giving a new committee subpoena powers. Without subpoena powers, an investigation can only reach the surface. By compelling witness testimony from both the public and the police and obtaining all documents related to the case at hand, the new Committee on Police Practices can ensure that justice can be served at the hands of the public in civil or criminal court. We can only ensure that this information comes to light by having an independent review commission with real subpoena powers. Now, to address my opponent's point that the committee will ignore complaints of sexual abuse or non-death related assaults, that's a gross misrepresentation of the objective of the committee. Deaths at the hands of the police must be addressed first, as the police are meant to stop crime, not act as the judge, jury, and executioner. This committee must prioritize and investigate deaths because everyone deserves due process. The wording of the amendment to the city charter states that the committee may, but is not required to, investigate complaints of abuse or sexual violence. This does not mean that the committee gets a free pass. All proceedings of the committee are public knowledge, and if the committee is willfully ignoring these issues, then the public can hold them accountable through the city council. We have these checks and balances in place to make sure that accountability is present throughout all levels of government. And to address the issues of grassroots organization versus top-down government, this committee is a blend of both. The mayor can appoint anyone to the committee, and the committee will hire independent investigatory professionals to conduct the investigation. We need an organization with legal power, not one that can merely make suggestions. Measure B provides us with a framework to create an investigatory body that is run by the community with real legal power. What we're debating tonight is if Measure B lends greater accountability to the police department, and if it ensures justice. While it does not address all issues with policing, it accomplishes its goal of ensuring a public discourse on police accountability. Without Measure B, we have not moved the needle at all, and as a city, we are failing to provide our community with the information we need to hold the police accountable. Proposition B is a crucial first step to reforming the police to better serve our communities and end the wanton murders and racial discrimination by our police officers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kyle. That was a very well refuted argument. Now we're going to go ahead and have Lava give her final speech, and it is her rebuttal.
All right, thank you. Kyle, thank you so much. I understand that we both agree on the idea that we want the best for our beloved San Diego in terms of both safety and peacefulness. I will now proceed in addressing Kyle's points regarding the committee. First, I would like to clarify that I did not state that the Commission will neglect abuse of physical and sexual assaults, since they are not required to be investigated if there are no deaths. My point was that as what is currently one of the major problems and will continue to be if the committee doesn't hold higher power, is that many assault cases that have no deaths nor evidence will be overlooked, which is very dangerous for the victims and possible future victims of the abusers if they aren't arrested, especially if the abusers were police officers. The other point I want to address is that my opponent mentioned that death cases should be more prioritized than assault cases. I feel like it is very wrong because it should be equally important and dealt with. The assaulters who aren't caught will continue assaulting more people. The victims will stay traumatized and in grief because their cases haven't been official and simply locked away. We don't want our citizens to stay in higher danger because the committee can't make it a requirement to investigate assault without death cases. We care about decreasing police brutality, but many of the victims don't necessarily have enough evidence. Please don't get my position wrong. I do want a committee to be approved to further scrutinize the police officers' actions. However, the committee that Measure B offers does not have enough powers to decrease police brutality if only death cases are mandatory to investigate. We need a more powerful committee that can take up more authorized actions to win against any type of notorious abuser, not just some of them. I hope that you understand my position better and as it will eventually lead to more success in both safety and peace. Thank you very much for listening and remember to vote!
Thank you so much, Lava. That was wonderful.
Thank you.
So, thank you all so much for joining us. Oh, and thank you, Dr. Canary, for joining us as well. Now, this is a difficult topic and it's a difficult issue, but it's important that we are talking about it, even if it is hard. And that's the only way that we're going to be able to make change and that we're going to be able to make the world better. So, as the Director of Forensics, I am going to go ahead and share with you our official stance on Measure B. We at San Diego State Speech and Debate fully and happily endorse Measure B. We think this is a fantastic and extremely important first step to increasing police accountability. We also believe that this is an extremely important moment for us to not stop asking for more. A lot of times we vote on a ballot measure or we see some kind of change happen and we think we're done, we're good to go. And then we don't think about it until there's another tragedy. But we can keep pushing. We can keep paying attention and keep engaging in the discussion, even if it is a little difficult and even if it is a little uncomfortable. And programs like SDSU Forensics allows for students to learn how to have the important skills to engage in these types of discussions. So that way they can have research, evidence, and so much more to be able to better articulate their position and engage with other individuals. So if it is all right with all of you, I'd like to go ahead and ask for our speakers, Kyle and Lava, to come back on. Kyle and Lava, thank you again so much for participating this evening. And I just wanted to ask you each one question. So Lava, why did you join SDSU Forensics?
I joined because I believe that the passion that we see in everyday debate is truly beautiful and that you really learn something every single day. It just has to happen. There's just like, even in the simplest way, you're going to learn something. It's going to be amazing and it's going to go back to you really advantageously and beneficially. And I just feel like debating is an awesome experience and it will forever be beneficial for us as we grow.
Oh, thank you so much, Lava. Kyle, why did you join the team?
So one of my passions has always been argumentation in a way that is constructive. And I feel that forensics is the best way in a structured manner to be able to gain a better sense and understanding of the world around us. Without debating and arguing topics, we really don't get the full picture. And the great thing about debate is that you're forced sometimes to argue topics that you may not have even thought of or don't even agree with, but you have to go out there and give it all your best. And I think that's the best way to learn, trial by fire. And SDSU forensics has been a great experience, and it's just been amazing to be able to learn and see things from a different perspective.
Thank you both so much. And thank you for this trial by fire by coming on and debating and all these adaptations. And those are some really nice jackets you got there. So.
Yes, we do.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around and for watching this debate. And please make sure to go out and vote if you haven't already. And if you have the time, please go ahead and go to our Facebook page, like, subscribe, and keep on supporting us. And keep a lookout there for more tournament results as we continue to compete with this team throughout the year. Have a fantastic evening. Be kind to each other and to yourselves. Good night.